this July 8th meeting of the Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission to order and ask that you stand with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Mr. Summer, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Benberry.
Here.
Commissioner Bradford.
Here.
Commissioner Morrison.
Here.
Commissioner Pollard.
Here.
Commissioner Shramke. Commissioner Wade.
Here.
Chair Crecilius.
Here. Mr. Morrison, you have our minutes motion.
Yes, ma'am. I move that the reading of the minutes for June 21st, 2021 be waived and that the minutes of said meeting, as prepared by staff, be approved as written.
Second.
Second by Benberry. Are there any corrections, additions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Morrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard.
Aye.
Commissioner Wade.
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford.
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Ms. Pollard, you have case 2021-0033, which is our URCDA first petition.
I move that the URCDA find that the property located at 510 North 16th Street is surplus. I further move that the property be donated as requested. I further move that the property be transferred to the Midtown Alliance of Neighbors, subject to the standard clause applied in the Fountain Avenue redevelopment area, stating the property ownership would revert back to the City of Paducah if the owner fails to comply with the submitted proposal and substantially complete the project within 2 years.
Second.
Second by Wade.
This is for Midtown Alliance of Neighbors for a single-family home, 2-bedroom, 1.5 baths, and Ms. Wade is here to answer any questions that you all may have.
This is vacant property right now, is it not?
Yes, it is.
You all have done quite a bit of work in this general area, and you're to be commended for that.
Thank
Really,
you.
it's going well.
Will it be like the homes that are on 14th Street?
It's a different floor plan, but the programming we're using to make it affordable for the home buyer is the same. This particular design is one that was done by I-5 when the city commissioned several different plans at the beginning of the Fountain Avenue program. It'll be a slight adaptation.
There's just a minor thing, but what's the date on the construction materials? Is this
It's
current?
It's fairly recent, yes, it is.
Okay, like this year?
Yes, and it's based on the framing prices as they existed 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm hearing that maybe we'll see things moderating down a little
Right.
bit, but then we were hearing
Right.
that a year ago, and it never happened, so.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pollard.
Aye.
Commissioner Wade.
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford.
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison.
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Mr. Wade, you have case 2021-0034.
I move that the URCDA find that property located at 1306 Madison Street is surplus. I further move that the property be donated as requested. I further move that the property be transferred to the Midtown Alliance of Neighbors, subject to the standard clause applied in the Fountain Avenue redevelopment area, stating the property ownership will revert back to the City of Paducah if the owner fails to comply with the submitted proposal and substantially complete the project within 2 years.
Second.
Second by Pollard.
This again request is made by the Midtown Alliance of Neighbors, this time for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home.
And this one also is a design that the city commissioned, was done by Chris Jones over at Ray Black & Son, and Bill, either you or Valerie may know, I don't think this plan was ever constructed. It was the Barclay. You may know, Josh. I don't think it was ever constructed, so
believe it
this is going to
was.
be,
I knew.
and this is a slight modification and simplification, but we needed to do that for budget.
I don't know that we ever came across needing a four-bedroom,
Yeah.
which is,
Are there other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Mr. Bradford, you have case 2021-0035.
I move that the URCDA extend the time frame for completion of the home located at 1532 Monroe Street by 90 days, said time to conclude on October 6, 2021.
Second,
Second by Pollard.
This home has been under renovation for quite a while. Ms. Poet is here to explain the need for the extension of the time frame. I'd like to go ahead, Sharon.
We just are down to the end and need a few days. I don't think this would have come in front of you all, except our construction loan at the bank was at the end of a 2-year cycle, and as part of their standard review at the end of the 2 years, they do a title search to make sure everything's good. And the attorney doing the title search noticed, of course, that reversion clause, and so they sort of put the ball into play to bring this in front of you all. So I hope that you all see it as an opportunity to see from a few photographs how close we are to completion and how far we've come.
Excellent.
And in the note, I did try to, we really probably would have been done for now if it had not been COVID and the
Right.
fact that we have not had and still don't have, in spite of the DOC recently now allowing visitation for inmates and the parolees who are in the same facility with them can go out and work, they still haven't released inmates for community service yet. And I know we're among several nonprofits in town that are looking forward to the day when we will be able to make use of those men, and we just have been so thankful to have them over the years. So.
There's one other question I have, and that has
Yes,
to
ma'am.
do with, do you have all of the materials that you need to complete the project, or are you still waiting for some materials? Because there's some holdup on that as well.
Right. Unlike the new construction, where I mentioned before the meeting began that we're having some vinyl siding timing, all of these materials are really pretty much there,
Available.
ready to go, yeah.
Good, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye. Chair
Crecilius.
Aye. Now we move into the Planning Commission new petitions. Mr. Morrison, you have case 2021-0032.
Yes, ma'am. I move that this commission adopt a resolution recommending to the Board of Commissioners that case TXT 2021-0032 pertaining to the text amendment of Section 126-87 mobile food vehicles of the Paducah zoning ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Second by Benberry.
This is coming before you for a couple different reasons. To include within this section for food tents for special events only. The Food Truck Fridays have been a huge success at the convention center. And they're forming long wait times. In fact, one of our employees in fire prevention had to wait 2 hours for food
Wow.
down there. So they are trying to figure out more creative ways to get vendors. And the director at the convention centers had questions about if they can do food tents. So working with fire prevention, we did craft an amendment to allow for those only during special events, not for just a tent to pop up on its own. And there's language included in there for approvals from fire prevention. Also, we are proposing to remove the 14-day consecutive period because that's been removed from Kentucky state law in the KAR where food trucks can set longer for the 14 days, and that's why you're seeing a lot more of the mobile food, vehicle parks, and stuff like that. And we also defined food tents. And the other major thing is to allow food trucks within 100 feet of a restaurant if they have permission from every restaurant within that 100 feet. For example, we did have one restaurant that wanted to have a food truck, but they were unable to do so because of our regulations. So in order to create a more dynamic and creative and walkable and enjoyable downtown, we did want to bring that before you all to change as well. Staff has also done some additional research not included tonight that we'd like to bring to your attention on quiet generators that could potentially be used on Broadway. When this was last brought up, noise was mentioned as a concern on Broadway, reaching the upper level of condos and things like that upstairs. The research that we found is there are some types of generators that operate well below your traditional generator. And the highest that one of these can operate is 72 decibels, which is about like a vacuum cleaner. And I've included some information in front of you where 72 decibels would lie. And it would be about like a vacuum cleaner or just a little bit higher than a normal conversation. We have noted that the Nashville flea market has some of these, and you can stand and take your order right next to it, and it's not objectionable or anything like that. So what staff would like to ask the Planning Commission is to include an additional text amendment, which is also in front of you all, to allow a generator on Broadway if it produces a noise level of less than 72 decibels. We do have a means to keep track of that via the police department. They have a machine or I don't know the exact word.
I
Yeah.
call it the
Decimal
noise
monitor.
meter.
Yes, we do have those in the police department. We have borrowed them before. And also the other part of this text amendment is specifically where it says on Broadway, the intent when this was written was between Water Street and North 7th Street / Clarence Gaines Street, because that's the downtown urban core and not the rest of the way up Broadway. So staff would like for the Planning Commission to also consider that as part of the text amendment tonight as well.
Do we need to have an amendment to add that?
Yes.
Then I would entertain such a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, the motion is that we will add the text amendment for generators and the location on Broadway between Water Street and 7th or Clarence Gaines to the text amendment.
Second.
Second by Wade. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, we will be voting on the amendment now to add that to the actual text amendment that was presented. So call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chair Casillas.
Aye. Now we're considering the actual text amendment with the added amendment that we just approved. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that?
I would just like to make a general public comment that there is a line in here that says no cooking will take place under the food tent. So this is not,
It's only
they can only,
serving.
it's only serving. They can cook if it's fire-related and are inspected, because that's what they have to do for barbecue.
Yes.
I'm sure fire prevention.
Right, fire prevention does
They
that, but
requested
just
that.
for the general public.
Right.
People aren't going to be cooking under that tent.
Right. That's a
So-
good point. Certainly a
thank you.
good point.
I included in that the actual language that fire
did.
prevention gave me.
You did, I read that, so, yeah.
The role of the mobile food administrator is striked out in some places. I see it still in others. What's the,
It was just redundant because it appeared in a second sentence
I
directly
saw that,
after.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to make better use and comprehension,
Sure.
I just struck it because it didn't need to be redundant.
gotcha.
And we still have one, right?
Yes.
Still you, Nick?
That's it.
Or assigned by other, assigned to other
Designee.
staff? As appropriate?
Yeah.
He's a mobile
Other
food man.
responsibilities he
There we are.
has.
All right, are there any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Mr. Benberry, you have the next text amendment, 2021-0038, and I'm
Yes.
sorry, it is a long one.
All right, thank you. I move that this commission adopt a resolution recommending to the Board of Commissioners that case TXT 2021-0038 pertaining to the text amendment of Section 126-3, definitions, Sections 126-64, lot Sections 126-102, low-density residential zone, R1, Section 126-103, low and medium-density residential zone, R2, Section 126-104, medium-density residential zone, R3, Section 126-105, high-density residential zone, R4, Section 126-106, convenience and service zone, B1, Section 126-106, downtown business zone, B2, Section 126-108, downtown business town lift zone, B-2T, Section 126-109, general business zone, B3, Section 126-110, light industry zone, industry zone, M1, Section 126-111, heavy industrial zone, M2, Section 126-112, high-density industrial zone, M-3, Section 126-113, conservancy zone, C1, Section 126-114, civic center zone, A1, Section 126-115, historic zones, H1 and H2, Section 126-116, highway business district, HBD, Section 126-117, planned office park, EOP, Section 126-118, mixed use district, MU, Section 126-119, hospital medical zone, HM, Section 126-120, neighborhood services zone, NSZ, and Section 126-121, neighborhood commercial corridor zone, NCCZ of the Paducah zoning ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Second by Morrison, thank you very much.
Is that a test?
That was.
You passed.
And bless you for taking that
Yes,
and
thank
giving Mr. Morrison some relief.
Yes,
So,
thank
thank
Commissioner
you.
Benberry, thank you very much for
some
reading
water.
all that. But this is really an exciting text amendment in the sense that there hasn't been such a comprehensive text amendment in 16 years of this magnitude whenever we adopted the sign part of the zoning ordinance. Now, covers mainly two big-ticket items, which is short-term rentals and also cottage homes. So I'll tackle the short-term rentals first, is we're proposing two different kinds, which is a special event short-term rental, which would be like a room for the quilt show, barbecue on the river. Whenever we had the eclipse back in 2017, these things were popping up everywhere. So the difference between the two is a short-term rental would only be given 2 permits a year to operate for no more than 7 days. Whereas the other kind of short-term rental is primarily found on platforms like Airbnb and platforms such as that. Now, because those are a little bit more intense type uses, we're proposing those to be conditional uses in the R2 and R3, which is the low and medium density residential zone, the medium density residential zone, the planned office park, and the NSC neighborhood services zone. In those 4 zones are proposed to be conditional uses and allowed by right in the R4 high density zone and the higher intense zones than that. We are not proposing them to be in the R1 low density zone, which is mainly on the west end, the Grove, things like that. And then cottage homes. Those are a lot of the times known as tiny homes, but we chose to go with cottage home. That tends to be what I've seen is the trend in Nashville and Memphis and other places. They call them such as that. They're going to range in size proposed from 140 square feet to 400 square feet, but they can only be placed on lots with a minimum of 2,250 square feet up to 7,999 square feet. And the reason that we've crafted it like that is because 8,000 square feet is a standard building lot in the R4 and R3 zones. So we didn't want literally a tiny home on a larger lot that would appear visually out of context with the neighborhood around it. There's a portion of the text amendment also, if you noticed in lots, where if a lot is smaller than 8,000 square feet in the R4 zone only, they can build when I say they, developers can build a stick-built home as long as the floor to area ratio is not less than 10%, meaning if you've got a 7,000 square foot lot, 700 square foot home, basically is what that translates to. For cottage homes, we are proposing those to be located in the B1 zone, which is convenience and service zone, and in higher intensity zones, and not in residential zones at this time. And the reason that we've done that is to protect neighborhood values at this time to see how well this is going to work. We want to make sure that sticking our toe in the water, heading in the right direction with this before introducing it to other places. But we also are very specific is what we allow for construction standards, such as a permanent foundation. They have to have a 412 roof pitch with metal or shingles. Mentioned a permanent foundation, and also we are specifically excluding containers, sheds, garages, those sorts of things, where you have to have it stick-built to the standards of a regular site-built home or a modular home.
Did you say excluded or including?
Excluded.
Yeah. It has to have the characteristics of a stick-built or modular home,
Okay.
is the goal that we're trying to achieve. And a developer could do more than one cottage home on a lot, but it does require 20% of open space on the lot, along with a site plan that they would submit to us with the footprint of the homes, their parking, any landscaping, anything like that, and would go through a normal site plan review process.
And that's only in the B1 zone.
B1 and more intense zones, yes. All commercial, industrial zones. Other items that we're including is the outdoor sale of food items, vegetables, garden implements in the B1 zone and above. Right now, our friends at Walmart and Lowe's are doing it, and we are making that legal for them. But also, it would help in some of the areas of the city that have food deserts, is what the hope is as well for that.
Josh, let me back, if the cottage homes are built in light industrial areas, are we creating a mixed use?
It could be potentially, yes.
And I have a question in that a lot of the tiny homes, cottage homes that I have seen are mobile. Would they have to have, but we're calling for them to be permanent.
Yes.
So
Permanent
they would either
foundation.
have to be built on site or would have to have, let's say, the wheels removed and then put on a foundation. Is that
Fixed to the
correct?
Like modular, yes.
So specifically, I saw someone put in a foundation, let's say it was 10 by 20, that's probably about right. Then they had a storage building brought to the location, set on top of it. Do we regulate how they were to secure, and I think someone's living in it now, but in the city?
The building code regulates that
I
specifically.
thought it was interesting. I didn't think they'd ever get it up on there first, but they did. And then I didn't see how they would
Yeah.
go back and put, the anchors and stuff necessary. So-
Sure.
So we do regulate it.
Yes, through fire prevention,
Okay.
through the Kentucky Building Code, correct. Other changes that we're proposing is to allow multifamily structure density to be determined by the Kentucky Building Code in commercial zones. That's in compliance with the comprehensive plan to up the city's population. And for example, the Jeton Schoolhouse down here that y'all may remember,
Right.
we rezoned that to B3. That allowed them an additional 31 building units within, instead of where R3 would have severely restricted it, allows more creative land uses and that sort of thing. So y'all remember that very well. That's one of the reasons that we want to make sure that we continue to do projects like that. The other things are seasonal firework tents in the B3 general business zone and above. And for the H1 zone, which is around the Market House Square, to only allow a commercial type use on the ground floor for the first two-thirds of the building. They can do residential in the back third and in any floor above or below the ground floor, but to make sure we have an active streetscape, we want to make sure that we have that in place. And what that does is that mimics the B2T zone along Broadway that we have in place now. And those are the major items that we have done. This has literally been in the works since January.
Yes, I was going to say, that's been worked on for quite a while.
So we have arrived to this day, so I am glad to have this in front of you all tonight, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you all may have.
Questions or comments? Congratulations for finally completing
Yeah,
this.
thank you.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
So you'd be disappointed if we just say scrap it and start over?
Yeah.
We need to keep him, okay? We don't want him
But
to
now
leave
you've
us.
set the bar.
That's
So
right.
what's next?
Now we're going to expect this every 6 months. I'm just kidding, just kidding.
I think there was one other bullet point in there that said, it also adds the ability to construct a single-family home on a smaller building lot than 8,000 square feet. Can you comment on the purpose of that addition?
Yes, and that is in the R4 zone, or in residential zones, that if you have a lot that is, for example, 7,000 square feet, smaller than a standard building lot, they can construct, or a developer can construct a home as long as the setbacks are met, for the first thing, and secondly, for that floor area ratio to not be less than 10%, because that's what it is on other lots. Within the other residential zones of the city, we are asking for a change in the R4 from 850 to 800 to make sure we stay within that 10%. That way it's all uniform. But whenever you drive down the street, your eye will not be catching something out of place, because it will still visually appear within context
Okay.
Right.
with that. And what it does is that it takes away the red tape from having to go to the Board of Adjustment to get a smaller house size. So it's making it easier for people to actually build homes. And now that we're moving into the south side, that's particularly
Yes.
useful there.
Yes. Well, and even some of the lots in Fountain Avenue, I mean,
Yeah.
would fit into this
Like
particular
I've already
scheme.
bought. It keeps the character of the neighborhood.
Yes, exactly.
So previous minimum lot size was 8,000 square feet, and it's going to, did you say 7,000?
Oh, no, just home size, the
Home size.
actual home size from 850 to 800. That way, in the R3 and R4 zones, it's consistent with the R1 and R2 zones,
Gotcha.
as far as 10%.
Yeah.
Questions or comments? These are important changes, and thank you for asking questions tonight and making these comments.
So the outdoor sale of food items, if I'm reading it correctly and understanding your summary of it, it's that it would have to be in front of a business. There can't be any outdoor food sales that are just an island and
Right.
they set up shop somewhere.
Correct, yeah. The intent behind that is to keep tents from just popping up wherever under the guise of a special event or something like
Right.
that. We want to make sure that we're trying to be narrowly tailored to get the intent we're trying to achieve.
Now, it could be either in front of, does it have to be connected to the business in any
No.
way?
Okay, the vendor does not have to be the business on
Correct.
that property. The property owner or the business there can grant permission to anybody
Yes.
they want to.
The one I'm thinking of is the hot dog vendor in front of Lowe's, who's been
Lemonade
there
stand?
for years and years. The lemonade stand, yeah. He's been there for years. They granted him the right to sell food out there, but really, he's not supposed to be doing that according to, but he will be now, so.
He's partially an
Believe
employee
it.
of Lowe's.
All of the big stores that put all the vegetables,
Yes.
gardening stuff out,
Right.
Lowe's and Walmart.
Sure.
Rural King.
And you go to Lowe's and they have
Yes.
outdoors in
They're
front of it,
temporary,
just
but-
all kinds of flowers
They
and.
just weren't supposed to do
Sure.
it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I read this. Went,
Now
ooh.
they are.
With the vending, like food trucks, are ice cream trucks considered food trucks? Do they get inspected yearly?
They do get inspected, but they don't fall under the guise of the zoning ordinance because they're mobile. But the short answer to your question is yes, they do have to be inspected, and they have to get a health permit from purchase area health department.
How often, you know?
That I don't know.
Health department inspections for restaurants are typically once a year.
Does that fall in the ice cream truck fall in?
As far as I know,
The reason
And
why
it's
I asked, I
surprise.
just be
It's-
blunt about it. I heard moms talking about one was really scary.
Really?
And it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing to me. However, people were, I guess, pleased with what it was serving. I just wondered, it goes around the park.
Well, there is I was reading in here that they can be inspected at any time without
Yeah.
notice, which I
Right.
think is, if you had a problem or you suspected that there was a problem, perhaps you needed to
Yeah.
mention something to the inspection department so they could do that.
You would call the purchase district health department. They do those food inspections there.
It may not even be licensed. I don't know. It's just a van selling ice
If
cream.
they're not, they should be.
Yeah, they should be. But I just
Absolutely.
happened to see it this week. Or I
Sure.
heard mothers talking about it. Like, ooh.
Is there anything else? Questions,
I
comments?
think we got to table this for 6 months. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to see.
You just want to
Josh
see
go.
the look on his face?
He can't sleep now.
Look, he's
oh my
What?
goodness.
Thank you
great.
again for
This
your
is
work,
good, Josh.
Josh.
Well, thank you all.
That's a lot of work in this.
There is, a lot. Are there any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Benberry?
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford?
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard?
Aye.
Commissioner Wade?
Aye.
Chair Crecilius?
Aye. Ms. Pollard, you have our last item of business, which is a bylaws change on the meeting time.
I move that this commission adopt the proposed changes as revised in the Paducah Planning Commission bylaws. Said changes will be voted on and take effect at the next regular or called meeting pursuant to Article 8 of the bylaws.
Second.
Second by Benberry.
What this will do is, at the next meeting, there will actually be a motion in front of you to adopt these changes, to change your meetings to the first Monday of every month at 5:30 instead of the first and third. The other change that you'll notice in here is Section 9 under Transaction of Business, where no petition shall remain on the table for longer than 90 days, and they should automatically roll off, but they can ask you all for an extension. I had discussed that with Dan Key a month or two ago, because you've noticed we've got an item that's remained. And so, and I've noticed that that's happened a few times at
Yes, it
Planning
has.
Commission. It's also happened with the Board of Adjustment. So, in order to stop that from happening and to be more efficient, I went ahead and put that in here for you all's consideration.
Yes, I think it's a wise move, because it's ridiculous for someone to leave something on the table for 6 or 8 months just because they don't want to re-advertise. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, I like the automatic functioning of it where it doesn't require you to constantly be checking in with them.
Right.
And they just decide that, well, this is too much trouble, we're going to
Right.
abandon this
Yeah.
application, and then they never tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
The comments, questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Now, we have a little bit of discussion that we would like to do tonight. we're through with our business, but call upon Nick Hutchison to explain, talk to us a little bit. It pertains to some of the things that we heard in our discussions yesterday at the seminar that we went to. Some of the things that really pertain to how we do our business and what business we've been doing and what business perhaps we need to change doing. So,
Sure. Yeah, so following the KLC training yesterday, we provided the commission with the enabling documentation for the Planning Commission itself, which was referenced at the training. So the printout that starts with 100.133, that would be the Kentucky statute that enables the Planning Commission to perform its duties. And then the printout that refers to section 126.176 is the Paducah code that authorizes and regulates the actions of the Planning Commission. There were several items discussed at the training yesterday that we would like to get feedback from the commission. The first being the way we process conditional use permits. Conditional use permits are a tool that we use to authorize a use in a zoning district that may potentially cause a conflict with adjacent property owners. And so, we have basically a checklist established and what we can and can't do for, conditional use and what we can regulate. And so there's, a little bit of a administrative role in that, but a lot of it is really more appropriate for the Board of Adjustment. So having that conversation. The second would be looking at the way we process some of our subdivision waivers. The state statute does require new subdivisions or creation of a subdivision, which is 2 lots or more, to come in front of the Planning Commission. However, we do have several processes that do not create a subdivision. So we have a lot. So if somebody's adjusting a lot line, just making those modifications to existing boundaries, that would not be any type of new creation. It would just be that simple modification. That could be done administratively. So we would be processing that in-house. It wouldn't come in front of the Planning Commission. And, these items we would run through legal for review just to ensure we're in compliance with all appropriate regulations. The second would be looking at a lot combination. So if somebody has 2 lots, say if they have 2 25-foot wide lots that are adjacent to each other and they want to combine them into one lot, they would just be going through that consolidation process. Those are the 2 kind of methods that I think we could handle administratively, but we are going to talk to legal if the commission is interested in trying to expedite some of those more administrative processes. So the third thing I think that was mentioned is the approach to the comprehensive plan. The state requires that the comprehensive plan is updated every 5 years, and our plan is due for an update next year. What was presented at the training yesterday is to approach it by going through a annual update every year and just break it down into various sections or topics. And so that way you're kind of continuing that conversation and that planning process ongoing. It doesn't require us to, hire a consultant or go through that extensive engagement process all at one time. It would just be something that kind of becomes a routine, and I think it would be really beneficial and help kind of make sure that planning document is relevant and kind of at the forefront of a lot of our conversations. So those were the kind of the key takeaways that staff gathered from the training, but open to feedback, and if there's anything else that you guys would like for us to explore further, we would be happy to.
I have a question about the plan. Are we at the tipping point, though, or where we have to do a 5-year redo?
So what we would be able to do is to adopt the goals and objectives of the existing plan, and then we would start that.
And that's allowed? Okay.
Continuing
restarts the
process.
clock.
Right,
Right,
restarts the clock, okay.
exactly.
And then we just do one section a year, rotating.
It'd be, I mean, a fairly
Yeah.
large section to
No, I know,
cover
but-
several, but, you know.
But it's better than the whole thing. Or
Exactly,
it should be
exactly.
easier than the whole thing.
Because I remember one year, it took a year to
Yeah.
get through the entire thing. And if it, another item about that really was brought up and is really something to consider is that you have an ongoing conversation with
Yes,
the people in
that's
the
what I like.
community. That you're not just hitting them with one public hearing, you have an ongoing conversation where you can get their input on a variety of different things in the comprehensive plan, which creates that bond that you want with the community to get their input. You know, everybody's come here where we've had some kind of a meeting and there've been 2 people here.
Yeah.
And that's not a cross-section of the people in our community. And there are other ways to reach out, which, of course, they discuss things like social media and, doing online polling and email conversations, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
I think it would allow for us to be more thoughtful and strategic in some of these key topic areas that, I feel like sometimes when you get into a planning process towards the end, you're like, okay, let's just be done.
Put that away.
But, housing, transportation, economic development, the parks and recreation, the quality of life elements are all really critical components that have multiple elements and, facets associated with them, that it's important to understand the complexity of them in its entirety. So I think we could create a quality document by going through that incremental approach.
Have you thought yet about which one to start with?
No, we haven't.
Okay,
I mean,
you haven't dug that far.
Yeah.
I know it was just yesterday.
It was just yesterday.
No, and if that's the direction that the commission would
I
like
know, you
to,
want to get going, I know.
if that's the direction the commission would like to proceed, then we can work on laying out what that process will look like and kind of establish a timeline for that. So.
Just a thought on the boundary line removal, that thing, how it can go through administratively. Notice over the last couple of years, or maybe 4, we've had different administrators with different ideas. So simple boundary line removal, at one point, the administration said no. And we would say yes, because they wanted the neighborhood to have more density, but the property owner owned both. And we were able to look at it objectively from the community, from the homeowner. We decided that, yes, they should be able to abolish that boundary line. So, with caution, I would say, as administration changes, I wouldn't want the process or the citizens to see changes for certain people or certain areas without it going through this diverse board of thinkers.
It's a very good point, and is there any kind of,
Is there an appeal process?
that's what I was going to
If
say, any kind of
they're
appeal
not-
process?
If for whatever reason they're not happy with staff.
Does that happen
Yeah,
more than?
It does.
we-
so I think there is an appeal. I think they could still.
You can
If
always
there's an
appeal
appeal
the decision.
process.
Joe, the idea behind doing that, making it administrative, is to avoid that because the training highlighted, emphasized really that approval and denial of waiver of subdivision is really just checklist approach.
Right.
He used that term checklist
Exactly.
several times, and so if it meets all the technical requirements, which is an objective thing, there's no subjective analysis to it.
Right.
So hopefully that means that if all the statutory requirements are met, staff, and I trust that they will approve everyone that meets those requirements. If they don't, then I think they still have the ability to come back to us
Exactly.
and
As long as
say,
they
listen,
did.
this is what
As long
happened.
as there's an appeal,
Yeah.
then we're,
Well,
I-
if
I've
they
left that
do
door
appeal,
open.
then it would go to the BOA. It would
Okay.
go
Okay.
to the commission.
But it would
Okay.
go,
Yeah, they have recourse in case there's something that goes
exactly.
awry.
As long as there's a
We talked
recourse,
about it
it's
just
fine.
being a simple checklist thing, but it wasn't
Yeah.
simple checklist
Yeah.
thing. So-
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The purpose and intent of subdivision regulations is to promote and, control density and development within the city, ensuring that, you're providing adequate services, access, whole slew of things. But we also have the zoning code element there too that provides kind of that secondary element as to what the configuration of those lots should look like within each zone. So as long as our regulatory framework is in place and adequate, there shouldn't really be any room for discretion in that review process by city staff, whether there's a change in leadership or not.
And actually, it should speed up the process.
Right, I
It'll
agree.
streamline it.
Yeah,
most of them.
I think developers and our engineers and surveyors will really like this
They'll
change.
be
so.
happy.
As
I
long
think
as
you're right.
it's,
And still, new subdivisions will be
Right.
required to come in front of the commission because of the dedications that are commonly associated with those
Exactly.
projects.
I think a lot of that density thing came in with the contractors and people buying the lots. As a people buying lots, I buy 3 lots because I'm going to put a big home in the center of those 3 lots, only to find out the city says, you can't do
Been there,
that.
done that.
that's
Right.
exactly what
Yeah.
it's,
Well, and I
That
think-
sort of thing is what
Yeah.
when you,
exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
one
can
of-
Exactly.
$1 million home wanted to go in and they
Right.
said, and the administrator say no.
Yeah, and one of the challenges associated with historic cities is that, back in the day when they were going through the initial subdivision of a city, they would just come in and create 25-foot lots or whatever it may be,
Right.
and people would buy whatever they could afford at that
Absolutely.
time. And so now we're left with some of these non-conforming or unique properties, and, it kind of creates challenges when you're talking about redevelopment and infill. So,
This is a situation where people bought, say, 100-foot lot, 2 100-foot lots. Of course, not that historically small lot.
Sure.
And they wanted to build
Sure.
in the middle of it. And
It runs the gamut,
it's not a
from
new
here to
problem.
here.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not a new problem at all.
yeah. And we can, review the code to make sure that somebody doesn't you can set a maximum lot size that, would say you can't combine it if it's going to create more than 6 acres or 3 acres or whatever it may be.
Well, this would have
Just
been-
depending on the zone.
This would have been less than that, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there any other?
That's good, to streamline it.
Yeah.
we
Any
are
other
in
discussion?
agreement for them to move forward. I don't
Oh,
think we've ever
yes.
actually
Yes,
said that,
indeed.
have we?
We're just
Yes, yes.
discussing.
He's proposed it. I don't
I
think
know.
we ever
Yeah.
said.
Well, we had an open discussion.
did.
We've given our opinion.
We are.
Are
happy to
you
move
all in
forward.
agreement? Is
Yeah,
there a
definitely
consensus
agree.
that they
Yeah.
should go ahead and move ahead?
Yes.
With all 3 items?
Just with
All
him
3.
being relatively new to the city, just, given some of the issues that have come up with changes in administration, I think it's important that you know.
Sure.
It's a good point. It's a valid point.
Just to revisit what you'd said about the conditional use permits, would that involve most of those belong with the Board of Adjustments. There are very few where they have come to us first.
Yeah.
I would like for that to be visited as well.
Okay.
Some of those things I don't think belong.
Wait, that's what they mean.
That's what I want to make, that's why I was
Right.
asking to
That's what they're
revisit that.
doing. Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
Well, I didn't
Okay.
understand that.
Okay.
No.
I thought you were there yesterday when we.
Well, he was,
About
but when
that.
he was talking about redoing some of this stuff, I wanted to make sure we zeroed in on that part.
Right.
Yeah. BOA, conditional uses. yeah.
Just trying to
Okay.
connect the dots.
Okay, okay. I thought he was pretty clear on that, but maybe not.
No,
Sorry.
he wasn't. To me,
Anything else? Anybody else? Want to be clear? Okay. Thanks, you all. We appreciate you staying for the discussion. And thank you all for your work.